Sir, I will help your daughter, even if she hates me for it. She said those words quietly, but they struck harder than any accusation the billionaire had ever heard. His daughter had shattered every boundary, rules, expectations, even her own reputation, leaving chaos wherever she walked. Yet somehow, this modest barista saw something no one else did. The grief behind the rebellion, the fear hiding beneath her anger. While everyone avoided the heiress, she stepped closer. While others judged, she listened. If you're watching this, tell me, are you on her side or his? Hit subscribe to support the channel. Zaylee swirled the espresso wand, steam hissing as she tamped down grounds, her eyes flicking to the Caravaggio book propped open on the counter. L'Esquisse buzzed with its usual Monday crowd, artists sketching on napkins, students hunched over laptops, the air thick with roasted beans and turpentine dreams. Her fingers, smudged with charcoal from a late-night sketch, moved with practiced ease. But her mind churned. Rent was due, and her scholarship wouldn't stretch far enough. An old painter with trembling hands, dropped his pencil. She caught his flinch, the kind that screamed unpaid bills. She slid him a free refill, no questions asked. The bell above the door chimed. A man in a tailored gray suit stepped in, his face sharp and tired, like he'd been carved from exhaustion. Behind him trailed a girl, 11 maybe, her blonde hair pulled tight in a braid, her school uniform pristine, but her eyes wild, scanning the room like a predator. Zaylee recognized him instantly. Cassian Valois, the media mogul whose face graced Forbes covers. The girl, Solène, his daughter, radiated a restless energy that made the air prickle. Conversations hushed. A barista fumbled a mug. Zaylee kept pouring, but her gaze locked on Solène, who was staring at the wall of customer sketches, her lips curling into something sharp. Solène's eyes landed on a blank spot, where a child's jagged drawing had been erased weeks ago. Zaylee remembered it. Bold, angry lines in red crayon, signed with an S. She'd thought it was striking, but the manager had scrubbed it off, calling it vandalism. Solène's fingers twitched, like she was itching to grab a marker. Cassian, oblivious, murmured into his phone, his voice low and clipped. "No, I can't reschedule. Handle it." He didn't look at his daughter. Zaylee handed a latte to a customer, her mind piecing it together. Solène wasn't just restless. She was deliberate, her movements calculated. The girl drifted to a corner table, near a framed art print, a swirling abstract in blues and golds, high-end but not priceless. Cassian followed, still on his call. His shoulders slumped. Solène sat, her hands folded, but her foot tapped a silent rhythm. Zaylee caught it. A countdown. "Hot chocolate, extra whip," Solène said suddenly, her voice clear, cutting through the cafe's hum. She didn't look at Zaylee, just pointed at the menu board. Cassian nodded absently, ending his call. Zaylee rang it up, her fingers brushing the Caravaggio book. "And for you, sir?" she asked. "Black coffee," Cassian said, his eyes barely meeting hers. Quickly, Zaylee worked fast, steaming milk, her back to the room. She heard Solène's chair scrape, a soft clink of ceramic. Then a gasp rippled through the cafe. She turned. Solène stood, her hot chocolate mug tilted, brown liquid dripping down the art print, pooling on the floor. The frame tilted, the canvas stained, a deliberate smear of chaos. Customers stared. The manager, Elise, froze mid-stride, her face paling. Cassian sighed, a sound heavy with defeat. "Solène, Sit down, he said, his voice flat. Solène didn't move. Her eyes locked on the ruined print, a flicker of triumph in them. Zélie stepped forward, ignoring Elise's warning glance. She crouched beside the mess, studying the stain, the way it bled into the canvas's fibers. It wasn't random. The splash followed the print's curves, almost intentional, like a Pollock splatter. She looked up at Solène, whose smirk faltered. Bold move, Zélie said, her voice calm, almost conspiratorial. The drip's chaotic, but it's got intent. You're saying something with this, aren't you? Solène's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing. She hadn't expected a response, let alone one that saw through her. The cafe was silent, every eye on them. Cassian's head snapped up, his phone forgotten. Elise hissed, Zélie, clean it up. But Zélie stayed put, holding Solène's gaze. It's just a spill, Solène said, her voice sharp. But there was a crack in it, a hint of uncertainty. Sure, Zélie said, standing, grabbing a raw, but not wiping the stain yet. But it's a spill with a story. What's yours? Solène's hands clenched, her bravado slipping. She looked away, back to the blank spot on the sketch wall, then sat down, silent. Cassian watched, his expression unreadable, but his eyes lingered on Zélie, like he was seeing her for the first time. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a sleek black business card, and slid it across the counter. Call this number, he said, his voice low. Tomorrow, we need to talk. Zélie took the card, her fingers brushing the embossed text. Cassian Valois, Valois Media. Her heart thudded. This wasn't about a spilled drink. Elise stormed over, muttering about damages, but Cassian waved her off, dropping $100 bill on the table. For the trouble, he said, standing. Solène followed, her braids swinging, but she glanced back at Zélie, her eyes a mix of defiance and something softer, almost curious. The door chimed as they left. Zélie tucked the card into her apron, her mind racing. She looked at the stained print, then the blank spot on the sketch wall. Solène wasn't just a spoiled kid. She was hiding something, painting it in destruction. Zélie's shift ended, but she lingered, wiping the counter, the card burning a hole in her pocket. She didn't know what Cassian wanted, but she knew one thing. Solène's story was just beginning, and somehow she was now part of it. Zélie stepped out of the cab, clutching her messenger bag, the Valois estate looming before her like a fortress of glass and stone. She smoothed her worn blazer, her heart pounding as she approached the double doors. A woman in a crisp black dress opened them before she could knock. Miss Zélie? The woman said, her tone clipped. Mrs. Berenice is expecting you. Inside, the air was cool, heavy with the scent of polished wood. Berenice glided forward, her silk scarf catching the chandelier's light. So, you're the girl from the cafe? She said, her smile tight, eyes raking over Zélie's thrift store boots. I hope you understand the privilege of being here. Not everyone gets to step into a Valois home. My privilege was learning Caravaggio by candlelight, Zélie said, meeting her gaze. I'm here for Solène, not the address. Berenice's lips twitched, a flicker of irritation. Follow me, she said, leading Zélie to a vast sitting room. A painting dominated one wall, swirls of crimson and shadow, its raw emotion pulling at Zélie like a tide. She recognized the style instantly. Isolde Valois, Solène's late mother. Before she could study it, Solène appeared, her school uniform rumpled, a smudge of blue paint on her wrist. You're late, Solène said, crossing her arms, her voice sharp. but her eyes wary. "Traffic," Zaylee said, setting her bag down. "You gonna make me jump through hoops, or can we talk?" Solen's brow furrowed, unused to the directness. Berenice cleared her throat. "Solen, why don't you show our guest the painting? Let's see if she's as perceptive as your father thinks." Solen smirked, pointing at the canvas. "Fine. Tell me what it means. Go on, expert." Zaylee stepped closer, her fingers itching to trace the brush strokes. The painting was a storm of color, jagged lines bleeding into soft curves, like a scream swallowed by a whisper. "It's grief," she said after a moment. "The artist was holding something together, but it's fraying. The reds are anger, the shadows are loss. Whoever painted this was fighting to be seen." Solen's smirk vanished. Her hands dropped to her sides, her face pale. "You don't know anything," she snapped, but her voice cracked, betraying her. She turned away, fists clenched. Berenice's eyes narrowed, catching the shift, but she said nothing, her fingers tapping her bracelet. Zaylee watched Solen, her mind clicking. The paint on the girl's wrist wasn't random. It was the same cobalt as the painting's undertones. She filed it away, keeping her expression neutral. "Maybe I don't," she said, "but I'm here to listen, not guess." Berenice stood. "That's enough for today. I'll show you out." But as she turned, Zaylee caught Solen slipping through a side door, her movements quick, almost guilty. Zaylee lingered, pretending to adjust her bag, then followed, her boots silent on the marble floor. The hallway led to a narrow staircase, its steps creaking under her weight. At the top, a door stood ajar, light spilling through. Zaylee pushed it open, her breath catching. The attic was a chaos of creation. Canvases stacked against walls, paint cans scattered, brushes crusted with color. The air smelled of linseed oil and dust. Paintings covered every surface, some half-finished, others slashed with violent strokes, all pulsing with raw talent. One canvas, a swirl of black and gold, felt like a wound laid bare. Zaylee knelt, studying a small sketch, a child's face, half-formed, its eyes haunting. Solen's work? No question. This wasn't vandalism. It was a language, a cry no one else had heard. Her fingers brushed a dried paint splatter, the same blue from Solen's wrist. She stood, heart racing. Solen wasn't breaking things. She was building them, piece by shattered piece. Footsteps echoed below. Zaylee slipped back to the sitting room, just as Berenice returned, her eyes sharp. "You're still here," Berenice said, her tone icy. "Don't wander. This isn't your home." "Didn't plan to," Zaylee said, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Just thinking about that painting." Berenice's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Solen's a handful. Don't get too attached. She breaks everything she touches." Zaylee nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. Back at her apartment, she couldn't sleep. The attic's images burned into her thoughts. She opened her sketchbook, copying the child's face from memory, its eyes haunting her. Solen was hiding a gift, one tied to pain. Zaylee dug through her art supplies, pulling out a small tin of oil paints, their lids dented but unopened. She packed them carefully, a plan forming. Tomorrow, she'd return, not to confront Solen, but to meet her where she lived, in the chaos of creation. Zaylee slid a book on oil painting techniques into her bag, her fingers brushing the tin of paints she'd packed. She stepped into the Valois estate, bypassing the grand entrance where a maid nodded curtly. Her boots echoed on the marble, but she moved with purpose, heading straight for the attic stairs. The memory of Solenne's hidden paintings fueled her, each canvas a map to the girl's guarded heart. At the attic door, she paused, hearing soft scratches, a brush on canvas. She knocked lightly, then entered. Solenne froze mid-stroke, a paintbrush dripping emerald green onto a drop cloth. The room was brighter today, sunlight cutting through a dusty skylight, illuminating a new painting. Jagged lines of green and violet, like a forest caught in a storm. Solenne's eyes darted to the tin in Zélie's hand, her expression a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Thought you might need these," Zélie said, setting the tin on a cluttered table. She pulled out the book, flipping to a page on blending shadows. "This trick saved me when I botched a restoration last semester. Want to try?" Solenne scoffed, but her gaze lingered on the book. "I don't need lessons," she said, her voice sharp, yet she didn't move away. Zélie sat on a stool, ignoring the jab, and started sketching on a scrap of paper, mimicking the green swirls of Solenne's canvas. "Fair enough," she said, "but I'm stealing your palette. This green's got a voice." Solenne's lips twitched, almost a smile. She dipped her brush, painting a bold stroke, then hesitated. Zélie kept sketching, her pencil scratching softly, creating a rhythm between them. Minutes passed, the silence comfortable, broken only by the creak of the attic floor. Solenne finally spoke, her voice low. "You're not like the others. They all tried to fix me." Zélie looked up, her pencil pausing. "I'm not here to fix you. I'm just here to draw bad trees." She held up her sketch, a lopsided pine, and Solenne snorted, a real laugh, fleeting but bright. The moment broke when Solenne's brush slipped, splattering green across her canvas. She cursed, tossing the brush down. Zélie saw the shift, anger flaring in Solenne's eyes, not at the paint, but at something deeper. "Let's try something," Zélie said, grabbing a blank canvas. "No rules. Just throw whatever you're feeling onto this." Solenne hesitated, then seized a tube of black paint, squeezing it directly onto the canvas, her hands moving with fury. Zélie joined in, flicking blue streaks, their movements chaotic but synced. The canvas became a battlefield of color, raw and alive. When they stopped, panting, Solenne's shoulders relaxed, her guard down for the first time. "That's what art does," Zélie said, wiping paint from her cheek. "It screams for you when you can't." Solenne stared at the canvas, then pointed to a corner of the attic, where an empty frame leaned against the wall, its edges splintered. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That was hers. Mom's last painting. Of me." She swallowed, her eyes glistening. "I tore it up. I was so mad. She was always painting, never listening. Then she left for the gallery and the car." Zélie's chest tightened. She knelt beside Solenne, her voice soft but steady. "You didn't cause the crash, Solenne. You were a kid, angry. That's not the same as killing someone." Solenne shook her head, tears spilling. "You don't get it. I said I hated her. Then she was gone." Her voice broke, and she crumpled, clutching the empty frame. Zélie pulled her close, letting her sob, her own eyes stinging. "I've said things I didn't mean to," Zélie said. "To people I loved. It hurts, but it doesn't define you. You're still here, painting." Solenne clung to her, her cries softening. The attic felt smaller, the weight of her confession filling the space. Zélie held her until Solenne's breathing steadied, her small body limp with exhaustion. She eased Solenne onto a worn couch in the corner, covering her, with a paint-splattered blanket. The girl's eyes fluttered shut, the empty frame still in her arms. Zélie stood, her gaze lingering on Solenne's sleeping form. She picked up a brush, cleaning it absently, her mind racing. Solenne's pain wasn't just grief. It was guilt, a wound that needed more than paint to heal. She glanced at the chaotic canvas they'd made together, its colors a mirror of Solenne's turmoil. Tucking the book under her arm, she slipped out, closing the door softly. Downstairs, she nearly collided with Berenice, who stood in the hallway, her silk dress pristine, her eyes sharp. "You're spending a lot of time with my niece," Berenice said, her tone smooth but edged. "Careful, Zélie. Solène est fragile. You wouldn't want to upset her balance." Zélie met her gaze, unfazed. "I'm not here to break anything, Mrs. Berenice, just to help her find her colors." She walked away, feeling Berenice's stare on her back, a chill settling in her gut. Solène was opening up, but something told Zélie the real battle was just beginning. Zélie adjusted her scarf, stepping into the dining room where crystal glasses gleamed under a chandelier's glow. The table, set for four, stretched like a battlefield, its polished surface reflecting Solène's tense face. Cassian sat at one end, his tie loosened, eyes fixed on a tablet displaying stock charts. Berenice, in a tailored blazer, sipped wine, her posture regal, but her fingers drumming an impatient rhythm. Zélie took the empty seat, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, sensing the air crackle with unspoken agendas. "Dinner's late," Solène muttered, pushing a fork across her plate. Her eyes flicked to Zélie, a silent plea beneath her scowl. Zélie offered a small nod, grounding her. Berenice set her glass down, her smile sharp. "Solène, darling, you've been so quiet lately. I was just telling your father how intense your art sessions have become." Her gaze slid to Zélie. "Our guest seems to have quite an influence." Cassian looked up, his brow furrowing. "Intense how?" "Oh, you know," Berenice said, swirling her wine. "Hours locked away, paint everywhere. It's unconventional. I wonder if it's wise, Cassian, letting someone so young guide her. Solène's delicate, and Zélie, well, she's hardly equipped for such a complex family." Zélie's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice even. "I'm not guiding her, Mrs. Berenice. I'm just there while she paints. She's the one leading." Solène's fork clattered. "I'm not delicate," she snapped, glaring at Berenice. "And I don't need a babysitter." Cassian rubbed his temples. "Enough, Solène. Berenice is just concerned." His tone was weary, but his eyes lingered on Zélie, a flicker of doubt in them. Berenice leaned forward, her voice soft but cutting. "Concerned, yes. We all want what's best for Solène. But Cassian, you've been so busy. You might not see how impressionable she is. A girl like Zélie, with her background, could easily steer her in the wrong direction." The jab landed, its subtext clear. Zélie's fingers gripped her sketchbook, but she forced a smile. "My background's taught me to spot a fake, Mrs. Berenice. Solène's real. That's why I'm here." Solène's lips twitched, a spark of amusement breaking her scowl. Cassian's gaze shifted between them, his doubt deepening. The maid arrived, setting down plates of roasted quail, but the tension only thickened. Berenice changed tactics, her tone nostalgic. "Isolde would have loved this dish. She always said food was art, didn't she, Cassian?" Cassian stiffened, his fork pausing midair. Solène's face paled, her hands curling into fists. Zélie saw the trap. Berenice was pressing old wounds, destabilizing them both. She touched Solenne's wrist under the table, a silent anchor. Solène exhaled, her fists loosening. Dinner dragged on, Berenice's barbs growing subtler, each one chipping at Cassian's trust. Zélie held her ground, deflecting with calm responses, but the weight of Berenice's scrutiny pressed harder. As dessert was served, Cassian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood. "I need to take this, excuse me." Left alone, Berenice's mask slipped. "You're out of your depth, Zélie," she said, her voice low. "Solenne's not your project. You're a guest here, nothing more." Zélie met her eyes, unflinching. "I'm not here for your approval. I'm here for her." Berenice's smile was ice. "We'll see." Later, Zélie slipped away, needing air. She found herself at Antoine's gallery, its dim lights casting shadows over faded canvases. Antoine, polishing a frame, looked up. "Rough day? Rough week," Zélie said, sinking into a chair. "Berenice is gunning for me. She's planting doubts in Cassian's head, saying I'm bad for Solène." Antoine snorted. Berenice was always jealous of Isolde. Tried painting, failed miserably. Now she's circling Solène like a vulture, waiting for Cassian to slip. He set the frame down. "Watch your back. She's not just talking." Zélie nodded, her mind racing. "She's too calculated. It's not just about me. She wants control." "Always has," Antoine said. "But you've got something she doesn't. Solène trusts you. Don't lose that." Zélie left, Antoine's words echoing. Back at her apartment, she flipped open her sketchbook, drawing Solène's latest painting from memory. Violent greens, sharp violets. Berenice's moves were clear. Isolate Solène, discredit Zélie, keep Cassian distracted. Zélie sharpened her pencil, her resolve hardening. She'd return tomorrow, not just to paint, but to protect the fragile trust she'd built. Berenice could scheme, but Zélie wasn't backing down. Zélie shoved her sketchbook into her bag, her boots scuffing the pavement as she hurried to the Valois estate. The morning air bit at her knuckles, but her mind was on Solène's latest painting, a jagged burst of red, like a wound. She'd planned to bring charcoal sticks, hoping to coax Solène into sketching, but a prickle of unease lingered from Berenice's veiled threats at dinner. She pushed it down, focusing on the girl who needed her. At the estate, a maid ushered her in, her face tight with something unspoken. Zélie headed for the attic, but Cassian intercepted her in the hallway. His suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot. "Zélie, we need to talk," he said, his voice low, heavy with something that made her stomach twist. He gestured to his study, a room of dark wood and leather. Inside, Berenice stood by a desk, her hands clasped, her expression one of practiced sorrow. A laptop glowed, its screen displaying an email. Cassian shut the door, his shoulders stiff. "Sit," he said, pointing to a chair. Zélie stayed standing, her bag clutched tight. "What's this about?" she asked, her voice steady despite the growing dread. Cassian rubbed his jaw, glancing at Berenice, who sighed dramatically. "I found something troubling," she said, tapping the laptop. "An email from your account, Zélie, offering to sell a page from Isolde's sketchbook to a collector. It's dated yesterday, when you were out." Zélie's breath caught. "That's impossible. I didn't send any email." Cassian slid the laptop toward her. The email was there, her name in the sender line, the words clinical. "Interested in a Valois sketch. pristine condition. Name your price. Her heart pounded. This isn't mine, she said, her eyes scanning the screen. Someone faked it. Berenice's lips pursed, her tone soft but venomous. It's your email, Zélie, and you've had access to the house, to Isolde's things. Solenne's been so attached to you. Perhaps you saw an opportunity. Zélie's fists clenched, her voice rising. You think I'd steal from Solène after everything we've done together? She turned to Cassian, searching his face. You know me. I'd never hurt her. Cassian's eyes flickered with conflict, but his voice was cold. The sketchbook's missing a page. It's one of Isolde's most valuable pieces. And this email. He trailed off, his gaze dropping to the floor. Berenice checked. The collector confirmed they received it. Zélie's mind raced. Berenice's calm was too perfect, her story too neat. Check the server logs, she said. Or the IP address. I was at the library yesterday, not sending emails. Berenice shook her head, her voice dripping with pity. You're grasping, dear. It's understandable, but the evidence is clear. Cassian's silence was worse than any accusation. Zélie's chest tightened, the sting of betrayal sharp. She thought of Solène's red painting, the trust they'd built. Cassian, look at me, she said, her voice firm. You've seen me with Solène. You know what she means to me. He met her eyes, his own clouded with doubt. I can't risk her safety, he said finally. Your services are no longer needed. Leave your key. Zélie's hands shook as she pulled the key from her bag, setting it on the desk. You're making a mistake, she said, her voice low. Not just about me, but about Solène. She'll know I didn't do this. She turned to Berenice, her gaze unflinching. And you won't win. Berenice's smile was faint, triumphant. Zélie walked out, the door clicking shut behind her. The hallway blurred, her throat tight, but she held it together until she reached her apartment. Inside, she sank onto her couch, the silence deafening. She'd lost more than a job. Solène's trust, their shared paintings, all tainted by a lie. Her eyes fell on her sketchbook, Solène's red canvas etched in charcoal. She grabbed her phone, scrolling through art forums, searching for traces of the missing sketch. Nothing. A knock jolted her. She opened the door, expecting a neighbor, but found Solène's school bag on the stoop, a note tucked inside. You didn't do it, I know. Zélie's breath hitched. She looked out, but the street was empty. Solène was fighting back, and that spark reignited Zélie's resolve. She sat at her desk, opening her laptop, her fingers flying over the keys. Berenice had set the trap, but Zélie wasn't done. She'd find the truth, for Solène, for herself. Zélie hunched over her laptop, the screen's glow casting shadows across her cluttered apartment. Art forum threads scrolled past, each one a dead end in her search for Isolde's missing sketch. Her coffee had gone cold, but Solène's note, "You didn't do it, I know," lay beside her, its scrawled words fueling her. She typed faster, digging into obscure collector sites, her eyes burning. Berenice's trap was tight, but every lie had a seam, and Zélie was determined to tear it open. A notification pinged, an email from an unknown sender, no subject. She hesitated, then clicked. A single line. Check the Valois library tablet. Backups don't lie. No signature, but the timestamp matched Solène's visit yesterday. Zélie's pulse quickened. Solène was playing a dangerous game, and Zélie wasn't about to let her fight alone. She grabbed her jacket, slipping Solenne's note into her pocket, and headed to a nearby internet cafe, unwilling to risk her own IP address. The cafe hummed with late-night coders and students, its air thick with burnt espresso. Zélie logged into a proxy server, her fingers steady as she searched for vulnerabilities in the Valois Estates network. Solenne's clue about the tablet was specific. Berenice must have used it to send the fake email. If backups existed, they'd show the real sender. Her search hit PayDirt, a cloud service linked to the estate's devices, poorly secured. She accessed the tablet's backup, scanning logs from the day the email was sent. There it was, a draft of the fake email, time-stamped when Zélie was at the library, but sent from Berenice's personal account, not Zélie's. The seam was splitting. Zélie saved screenshots, her heart racing, but she needed more to nail Berenice. Back at her apartment, she paced, replaying Solenne's note. The girl's faith was a lifeline, but Zélie couldn't storm the estate without hard proof. She texted Antoine, her only ally. Need your contacts. Black market art dealers. Urgent. His reply came fast. Meet me at the gallery. Midnight. Bring coffee. The gallery was dark when Zélie arrived, a styrofoam cup in hand. Antoine unlocked the door, his face grim. You're in deep, he said, taking the coffee. Berenice doesn't play small. What do you need? Names, Zélie said, setting her bag down. Someone's buying Isolde's sketch. I've got proof Berenice sent the email, but I need the buyer to tie her to the theft. Antoine whistled, leaning against a canvas. Risky, but I know a guy, Marcel, who deals in shady acquisitions. He's discreet, but greedy. If Berenice sold that sketch, Marcel's your link. He scribbled a number, sliding it across. Don't mention me, Zélie nodded, pocketing the number. Thanks, Antoine. I owe you. You owe me a painting when this is over, he said, half smiling. And don't get caught. She left, the city's neon lights blurring as she dialed Marcel from a burner phone. His voice was slick, cautious. Who's this? Someone with questions, Zélie said, keeping her tone flat. You bought a Valois sketch recently. I need the seller's name. Marcel laughed, low and sharp. Information costs. What's in it for me? Avoiding trouble, Zélie said. The sale's dirty. You want your name out of it? Silence stretched. Then, meet me tomorrow, Pier 17, noon. Bring cash. The line went dead. Zélie exhaled, her breath visible in the cold. Marcel was a gamble, but she had no choice. She returned to her apartment, pulling up the screenshots again, cross-referencing timestamps. The evidence was solid, but incomplete without Marcel's confirmation. She needed to protect Solène, who'd risked everything to help her. A soft knock startled her. She opened the door, finding Solène on the stoop, her school bag slung over one shoulder, her face flushed from the cold. I can't stay long, Solène said, slipping inside. Dad's distracted, but Berenice is watching me. Zélie locked the door, her voice low. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Solène pulled out her phone, showing a photo of a sketch, a faint outline of a woman's face, unmistakably Isolde's style. I found this in Berenice's room, she said. It's not the stolen page, but it's close. She's hiding something. Zélie studied the photo, her mind clicking. You're brilliant, she said, squeezing Solène's shoulder. But no more sneaking. I've got the tablet backups. We're close. Solène's eyes widened. You're really doing this? For me? For us? Zaylee said, her voice firm. Go home, act normal. I'll handle the rest. Solène nodded, slipping out, her braid vanishing into the dark. Zaylee sank onto her couch, the sketch photo burning in her mind. Tomorrow, she'd meet Marcel, tie Berenice to the theft, and end this. She clutched Solène's note, its words a quiet vow. The truth was within reach, and she wasn't letting go. Zaylee gripped the envelope of cash, her pulse steady as she approached Pier 17, the waterfront sharp with salt and diesel. Gulls wheeled overhead, their cries cutting through the noon bustle of vendors and tourists. Marcel leaned against a rusted railing, his leather jacket too sleek for the gritty docks. He spotted her, his smirk thin, eyes scanning for trouble. You're the one asking about the sketch? He said, voice low, barely audible over the waves. Zaylee nodded, sliding the envelope across. Name the seller. Marcel pocketed the cash, glancing around. Berenice Valois. Contacted me last week, said she had a rare Isolde piece, paid through a shell account, but I know her type. Desperate, not dumb. He pulled out a phone, showing a grainy photo of the sketch. A woman's profile, delicate but fierce. This is it. You want more? It'll cost double. That's enough, Zaylee said, memorizing the image. She turned, her boots crunching gravel, mind racing. Berenice's name tied the knot. She had the tablet backups, Solène's photo, and now Marcel's confirmation. It was time to end this. Back at her apartment, Zaylee printed the screenshots, organizing them with Marcel's photo in a folder. Solène's text buzzed her phone. Dad's home tonight. Berenice is coming over. Do it now. Zaylee's chest tightened. She grabbed the folder, slipping it into her bag, and headed to the Valois estate, the city's lights blurring past her cab window. The estate's doors opened, a maid ushering her into the sitting room. Cassian stood by a window, his face haggard, a glass of bourbon in hand. Solène sat on a couch, her sketch pad open, her fingers smudged with charcoal. She looked up, her eyes flashing with hope, then darted to the doorway as Berenice entered, her silk dress rustling, her smile polished but brittle. Zaylee, Berenice said, her tone smooth. I thought we were done here. What's this about? Zaylee set her bag down, her voice calm but firm. The truth, Mrs. Berenice, about the sketch you stole and the email you faked. Cassian's glass froze mid-sip. What are you talking about? Zaylee opened the folder, laying out the screenshots. These are backups from your library tablet. The fake email accusing me came from Berenice's account, not mine. Sent when I was across town. She slid Marcel's photo forward. This is the stolen sketch. Sold to a dealer named Marcel. Berenice was the contact. Berenice laughed, sharp and dismissive. This is absurd. Why would I steal from my own family? You're desperate, Zaylee, spinning lies to save yourself. Solène stood, her sketchpad falling to the floor. She's not lying, she said, her voice trembling but fierce. She pulled out her phone, showing the photo of the sketch from Berenice's room. I found this. It's not the stolen one, but it's Isolde's. You've been taking things, hiding them. Cassian's face darkened, his eyes locking on Berenice. Explain this. Berenice's composure cracked, her hands clenching. I was protecting Solène, she said, her voice rising. You're too distracted, Cassian, letting strangers into her life. I needed funds to secure her future, to keep this family intact. By framing me? Zaylee said, stepping forward. By hurting Solène to cover your debts? Berenice's eyes flashed, her mask gone. You're nothing, Zaylee. A nobody meddling in things you don't understand. I did what I had to for this family. Cassian slammed his glass down, the sound echoing. You betrayed us, he said, his voice low, lethal. You used my daughter's pain, my wife's work, for your own gain. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. You're done here. Baroness's face crumpled, her voice a hiss. You'll regret this, Cassian. I'm your sister. Not anymore, he said, pointing to the door. Get out. Berenice grabbed her purse, her heels clicking as she stormed out, the door slamming behind her. The room fell silent, the weight of her absence heavy. Cassian sank into a chair, his hands covering his face. Solène ran to Zélie, hugging her tightly. You did it, she whispered, her voice thick. Zélie knelt, meeting her eyes. We did it. You were the brave one. Cassian looked up, his expression raw. Zélie, I was wrong. I let her manipulate me, and I hurt you. I'm sorry. Zélie nodded, her throat tight. Don't apologize to me. Be there for her. She squeezed Solène's hand. She needs you now. Cassian reached for Solène, pulling her into a tentative embrace. I will, he said, his voice breaking. I promise. Solène led Zélie to her sketch pad, flipping it open to a new drawing, a vibrant swirl of blues and yellows, alive with hope. This is you, she said, her smile shy but real. Zélie's eyes stung, the colors blurring. She'd come to help Solène, but the girl had given her something back, a purpose, a fight worth winning. Zélie adjusted her blazer, stepping into the Valois Estate's sunlit atrium, where Solène's laughter echoed from an open door. She followed the sound, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, a familiar warmth settling in her chest. 3 weeks had passed since Berenice's exit, and the house felt lighter, its cold edges softened by new routines. Today, she wasn't here as a hired hand, but as a guest, a shift that still felt surreal. In the dining room, now doubled as a makeshift studio, Solène knelt on a drop cloth, her hands smeared with ochre paint. Cassian, tie discarded, dabbed at a canvas with a brush, his strokes clumsy but earnest. Their canvas, a half-finished landscape of rolling hills, wobbled with amateur charm, a far cry from Isolde's masterpieces. Solène glanced up, spotting Zélie. You're late, she teased, her grin bright, unguarded. Blame the subway, Zélie said, dropping her bag. She studied their painting, tilting her head. Bold choice, that yellow, trying to blind someone? Cassian chuckled, a sound Zélie hadn't heard before. Solène's idea. She says it's optimistic. He looked at his daughter, his eyes soft, a quiet pride in them. It's not done, Solène said, dipping her brush into teal. Dad's slow, keeps overthinking it. Zélie sat cross-legged beside them, pulling out her sketchbook. Art's not about thinking, it's about feeling. Show me what you've got. Solène handed her a brush, and Zélie added a streak of violet, blending it into the hills. They painted in sync, the room alive with soft banter and the scrape of bristles. A rhythm of trust. Cassian set his brush down, wiping his hands. Zélie, I've been meaning to talk, he said, his tone serious but warm. I'm starting something, a foundation, the Isolde Valois Fund, to support young artists from tough backgrounds. I want you to run it. Zélie's brush paused, paint dripping onto the cloth. Me? I'm just a student, Cassian. I don't have the experience. You have the heart, he said, meeting her gaze. You saw Solène when I couldn't. You fought for her. That's what this fund needs. Someone who sees the person, not just the art. Solène nudged Zélie, her eyes gleaming. Say yes. You'd be awesome. Zélie hesitated, the weight of the offer sinking in. She thought of her late night studying, her empty bank account, the kids like her who dreamed of paintbrushes but couldn't afford them. Okay, she said finally, her voice steady. I'm in. Cassian smiled. A real one, not the strained mask she'd first met. Good. We launch next month. First project's an exhibition. Solène's idea. Solène beamed, pointing to a covered canvas in the corner. It's a surprise. You'll see. Weeks later, Zélie stood in a bustling gallery, its walls alive with color. The Isolde Valois Fund's debut exhibition hummed with young artists, their works raw and vibrant, each piece a story of struggle and hope. Zélie, in a simple black dress, moved through the crowd, shaking hands, her new role as director both thrilling and daunting. She spotted Antoine in a corner, nursing a glass of wine, his grin wide. Not bad, kid, he said. You're making waves. Couldn't have done it without you, Zélie said, clinking her glass against his. The crowd parted as Solène approached, pulling Cassian behind her. She wore a smock over her dress, her hands still flecked with paint. Ready? She asked Zélie, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Zélie nodded, following her to a wall draped in velvet. Solène yanked the cover down, revealing two paintings. The first was a portrait of Zélie, her face rendered in bold strokes of gold and crimson, her eyes fierce yet kind, a beacon of strength. The second showed Cassian and Solène, their figures intertwined, painting together, a burst of color binding them. The crowd murmured, awed. You did this? Zélie said, her voice catching. The portrait captured her essence, not just her face. Every line a testament to Solène's talent and their bond. Solène shrugged, but her smile was radiant. You saw me first. This is me seeing you. Cassian rested a hand on Solène's shoulder, his voice thick. She worked on these for weeks. Wanted it to be perfect. Zélie blinked back tears, touching the frame. It is. She turned to Solène, pulling her into a hug. You're incredible. The gallery buzzed. But for Zélie, the world narrowed to this moment. Solène's grin, Cassian's quiet joy, the paintings glowing under the lights. She'd come to restore a girl's heart, but she'd found her own purpose, a canvas of possibility stretching before her. Thank you for joining Zélie and Solène's journey in Portrait of Truth. We hope their story of healing and courage touched your heart. What did you think of Zélie's fight or Solène's transformation? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. If this tale moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more stories of resilience and hope. See you next time for another unforgettable adventure.